Hi, I'm Antonio Basterechea, and I chose to do the video journal. I do have my notes in front of me, so I'll be looking back and forth a little bit just to remember what I'm talking about. First, I just wanted to start off with the open range and to talk about like the Montana Stockman and like the open range boom and all that stuff, like the end of the open range. I thought it was really interesting. I thought that it was really interesting how they moved their cattle so far. Like, Montana is a really big state, and it's crazy to me that they would move their cattle so far, especially in a spot where it would be easier because there's no mountains, but it's just interesting. Like, that would be super, super boring to me personally. And I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was especially crazy with the really, really hard winter that they had, and just how many of their cattle died, which was like, it says 60%. Like, that's insane. That's a ton of cattle. And I can't even imagine how much of a hit to the economy that was, because it was such a big part of their economy. Next, I want to talk about the railroads, and then silver, and how Montana became a state. This whole section was pretty crazy, especially with like all the changes in power and how they would buy each other out, and then they would have to sell, and it was wild. I thought it was so interesting how how connected they were, and how much Teddy Roosevelt worked to bust the trusts, and all that stuff, and how he literally became the trust buster, because that was like his thing. Like, he was really, really good at doing that stuff, even though it really didn't do that much, and it just separated the three companies. And I thought it was really interesting how the BNSF, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, still dominated Montana's rails. And I thought that was just so interesting how they're still around, and they're still such a big part of the rail industry. Next, I want to talk about shortly about the silver boom. I thought it was interesting how Marcus Daly and William Clark had they were these big celebrities when it came to silver, and how much the focus from gold to silver became, because gold was huge, and then having silver be this big thing that replaced it because the gold rush ended. I thought was just really interesting. Now I want to talk about how Montana achieved statehood. I thought it was interesting how all the stuff that happened with Clark, and the Constitution that got lost a while back, and all that stuff, and how there was all these hoops and stuff that they had to jump through to make Montana a state. I thought was really interesting. And I also thought that it was really interesting how Missoula was selected as the state university, obviously University of Montana, and then Bozeman for the agricultural college. And I didn't know at all that Montana State was selected as the agricultural college, and I think that's just really interesting how there was an agricultural college. I next want to talk about the rise of copper and all that stuff. I thought that was really interesting how it became such a big thing, especially around Butte and Anaconda. I thought that it was really interesting how Daly and Clark went back and forth with each other, and they worked together, and then they like hated each other. I thought was really interesting, and how the fight for Helena and Anaconda I thought was really interesting, and I thought was pretty funny because like for the state capitol, like I thought was just so interesting how they like used all these like less than legal tactics to get their way and do all that stuff. And I thought that it was just really interesting, like the newspapers and stuff, and the stuff that they said about each place, how they used those tactics to get people to vote on either way. I thought it was really interesting. And then next I want to talk about the homestead boom. I thought that was really interesting, just because I didn't know that was even a thing. I thought that it was interesting how dry farming became such a big thing, and it's just so interesting how like the homestead boom like was huge, and then the impact of World War I just completely destroyed it. And it was just because they had to use all these resources to, instead of feeding themselves, feed soldiers in World War I and all that stuff. I thought it was just really interesting. So yeah, so this was my video journal. I hope that you find it worthwhile to watch, and yeah.